Hello, this is Vampire. Recently I got a very interesting but also very tough comment posted, a question basically from Youngstar511, and he says, Vampire, which are the empty hand self-defense techniques versus a machete? So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to tackle this very difficult question. Okay, he's also talking about other stuff here. So one of the things he says is Leo Gahe, who is a Filipino martial arts expert, he says that you must always assume that your attacker is also trained. Assuming that was the case, then that's a big problem. Yeah, it is. It would be, wouldn't it? I believe what Mr. Leo Gahe is saying is actually... I'm going to take a page out of Mario Sperry's book, okay? And Mario Sperry says, when you're training against an opponent, always imagine that your opponent is going to be as good as you are, if not better. So at the very least, as good as you are. So don't train against an opponent that you're expecting that they're going to make silly mistakes, someone who is not a good fighter, you know, things of that nature. It just makes sense, right? One of the big things you hear is never underestimate your opponent. And I think that's what this guy is trying to say. Basically, not only does it make sense, it doesn't have to be your opponent is more skilled. It could also be your opponent is faster, stronger, more aggressive, catches you off guard, comes at you, you know, surprising you like an ambush. You know, so I think that's what he means, basically, okay, is not to assume, you know, that your opponent is going to be easy and dumb, all right? Okay, so the next thing is, let's see, alright, the dynamics of defending against a knife are completely different from a machete, I would imagine. And the answer is, yeah, it's different. A knife is different from a machete, and that's different from empty hand, and that's different from stick. But at the same time, no, they all are the same, because they're all combat, they're all done by a human being, you know, and it's about force, it's about, you know, dealing with force and dishing out force, and, you know, being able to move, and, you know, so all those kinds of dynamics do not change. So for me, what I do is I tie them in together and I mix them in together. So my empty hand skills help my weapon skills. Okay, so training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Muay Thai boxing, I bring those things, and it helps my stick fighting, which helps my knife fighting, and then my knife fighting makes me better with a machete, you know, and vice versa. So training in those things, I don't feel like I'm wasting time, and while I'm developing one, the other's falling behind. No, I bring them all together, okay? So I don't convert, all right? I don't convert to one style, and then all of a sudden, you know, I don't abandon, you know, I bring them all and try to mix them together, okay? So that's the way I see that. Okay, so what are the empty hand self-defense techniques versus a machete? There are people that teach specific self-defense techniques, empty hand self-defense techniques versus a machete. Me personally, you know, I don't like to do that, because to me, technique training is very low. It's a low level, and techniques are very unreliable. That's one of the things that I learned through Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, there are some guys that just simply won't tap. Their joints are flexible, or their neck is like freaking this big, or whatever. Some people you can't guillotine choke them, you know, whatever. You know, so techniques are unreliable, okay? What I think is important here is for you to train, and as you train, you develop yourself, and as you develop yourself, you're going to get more confident to where you can feel that you could deal with a machete with an empty hand, all right? That is a very big task, okay? That is a very difficult thing. So one or two techniques, or even 5, 10 techniques, to rely on that to get you out of that situation alive is, you know, it's not techniques that you need. It's a freaking style that you need. A style with years of training behind it, all right? Because, you know, like for me, training in the stick fighting, that gives me the sense of, well, the weapon is going to be similar in length, all right, length and size, because I'm using sticks, okay? And then with my knife training, I'm going to be very familiar with what a blade can do. So that helps me understand what it's capable of doing, what kind of attacks are ideal for them. And so the reverse is, what do I need to defend? You know, what are the most important things that I need to defend, and how to defend against it? What kind of strikes are going to be very, very powerful, things of that nature. When are they vulnerable? That's going to help me see the timing like that from the stick fighting and from the knife fighting. That's going to help me understand that. If I fail at those things, and even if I succeed, I'm going to want to go in and neutralize his weapon. So when that happens, I'm going to want close quarters training. I want to have like Greco-Roman stand-up sparring, clinch, being able to deal with force to force, knowing my background that I've trained with some big, strong guys, some awesome athletes, and I've been in a clinch with those guys. That's going to be a huge confidence factor for me to feel like I can control this guy and try to go for a disarm, try to weaken him up with some elbows, some headbutts, you know, some knees and things like that. So definitely the MMA type background for me is also going to help me out. But you see, those aren't, I'm going to be using techniques and I'm listing techniques, but it comes from, really, it's the experience that I've had through those styles. So that's what you're going to be needing for something like this.